Pulitzer and Hearst, they think we're nothing. Are we nothing?
Oh, I don't. Okay, I see. I didn't know that was going to be the bit. I thought it was going to be something where I got to do my cool New York accent, where I get to
You
come
could
in.
have. You could have answered in a
Well,
New York accent.
except that the word "no" doesn't translate to a New
No.
York accent. You
No.
can't. Uh,
Pulitzer and Hearst, they think we're. Wait, they think they got us. Do they got us?
no, no. The one word you can't put an accent on.
Even though we ain't got hats or badges, we're a union just by saying so. And the world will know that Say Report Jr. is doing a hot topic this week.
Oh my God. Uh,
Yep, that was my
we
opening.
are. Yeah, that was good. No, that was good. Just like Newsies, it surprised the hell out of me every time.
Good. I'm
Uh,
glad.
God,
Oh,
yeah, we're gonna
goodness.
talk about Newsies today. Why? I don't know. I actually don't remember how we got on this.
Um,
I I remember you texting me about something, and you were watching the King of New York like section
yeah,
of the play, and I can't
yeah.
remember why.
So, like, you mentioned you had watched Newsies like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, you've watched it recently. And
I've
I was
watched
like,
a lot recently now,
yeah,
but yeah, so over the last like I
yes,
think right before Christmas, right after or right
yeah,
before New Year's, I mean, I
yeah.
was like, you know what? I want to watch Newsies for some reason. I haven't watched that in 10 years. So,
So, like, I think Newsies was just in my head, and like how much I love Newsies like came flooding back. And I was, I was like craving to hear, craving. I was craving to hear King of New York, and instead of going to YouTube, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Netflix and like see what how the play handles it, or the Broadway musical handles it. And so that's why I went. So I like clicked through to King of New York, and I was just like, oh God, this is. I don't know if I
beautiful,
like
glorious,
this.
perfect,
No,
amazing,
but so like
spectacular.
at the moment, I was like, I don't know if I like this. Their accents are terrible. They're like, it's like so over the top, but it's Broadway. It has to be over the top. But like so that's why I texted you, and I was like, oh my God, the like stage version of Newsies is not good. And then you were like, well, now. And then we just like got it in our brains to rewatch it and do an episode about
Oh,
it.
and boy, I'm sorry you were so wrong
No,
about that
I
initial
was. No,
assessment.
I.
That, yeah, I mean, I remember sitting down to watch the play, the stage musical performance, and I started watching it. First off, recognizing Winslow's shot from Supergirl right
Yep.
off the bat,
Yep.
I went, "Well, this is already great." And then Jeremy Jordan playing a completely different version of Jack Kelly,
Which
and
is
I was like,
crazy.
and then about 10 minutes in, I went. I think I even put out a tweet while I was watching it. I was like, I'm 10 minutes into this, and oh my God, I think I like this play. And then at 30 minutes, I was like, oh God, I'm 30 minutes in, and I think it's better than the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh, that's a high. That's a high order.
I could tell you right now, I prefer this play over the movie. I'm not saying the movie is bad. I still
Oh.
love the movie. I just think that the play did the story better, and they somehow
Um.
managed to do it by making it a more cliched by the book story.
Yeah. It was really weird because like so I saw Newsies like I don't even know when I saw Newsies, but Devin or my dad was like you got to see Newsies. So I sat down and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I love every second of this. So like
Oh,
then when the Broadway play was like gonna come out, I was so excited, and I never got to see it, but I wanted to see it so bad. And like then watching that King of New York version like freaked me out somehow. Like it was just, oh, this is not King of New York. This is weird. I don't like this. And then like I had to rewatch the movie because I'm like, is the movie version bad? Like, but it's not. I don't know. The story differences in the play, some of them are very weird to me, but some of them are spot on, and it's like I wish somehow we could mesh these two into one ultimate movie or play.
if they ever decide to like remake Newsies, which it's Disney, they will at some point. Like someone will convince them to try. I think that yes, if they somehow blended the movie and the
Yes.
play and
Yeah.
like show some things. So let's talk about that movie real quick
Yeah.
before we get into more of it.
In case anyone hasn't seen Newsies, we're gonna ruin it for you and tell you what it's about.
And I mean, also just go watch Newsies. You can
Yeah,
rent it for
you need
$3 on YouTube,
you
and
need to watch it.
it's so good. So, coming in 1992, so this is after years of Disney's was actually struggling. Like this was right in the middle of them coming back animation wise.
Yep.
Actually, it's even right before. Like they are just about to ramp up. Like Little Mermaid had just come out, and Aladdin was about to come out, and so like the new golden age of like Disney animation and all that. And someone in their head at Disney was like, "Oh, let's do a live action musical." Because
Based on real
um,
events.
based not only based on real events, but also Disney's track record for live action film was horrendous. And I don't know why they thought that this was a good idea.
Yeah.
But they get it in their head to do this. So you have this story of the newsboy strike of 1899, where all of the newsies in all of the kids selling newspapers in New York City were like all pissed off because they basically Pulitzer and all of the people that own the newspapers decided to raise the cost of the papers that they had to buy to then sell, which meant less money for them, you know, to when they sold their papers back.
Yeah.
Right. So they go on strike. It's this huge organized thing. Gets all this attention for child labor and stuff like that in all of New York. And this whole story, like the kind of secret underlying story of the Newsies is, oh, by the way, child labor runs everything.
Yes.
And so if the children decide to not work, you're all fucked. Like, that's like the basic story to that. So it comes out, they get Christian Bale, who at that time,
fantastic.
and this is only like his second major film.
Yeah.
He had done Empire of the Sun, which was this huge dramatic war story when he was like in like the mid 80s. And then he had been doing like small made for TV movies and stuff in Britain. So Christian Bale is almost no name here unless you saw Empire of the Sun. And I guarantee you, you don't recognize they're the same kid. And he's playing Jack Kelly, who's also known as Cowboy Jack Kelly.
Yep.
Because for some reason he runs around with a cowboy hat and is completely obsessed with moving out west to get out of New York in his terrible living conditions. But my other favorite is that Davy, who's the other kid that comes in here and is like the audience, you know, surrogate for learning about the world of the Newsies. He's played by, I don't even know the actor's name, but it's the kid that turns into Tom Hanks in Big. That's who that actor is. That's the kid that becomes Tom Hanks in Big. So like, so he's not obviously like super famous. So like none of the kids in this movie are super famous, but they are fantastic dancers, which is the only reason, except for we're going to talk about Christian Bale's dancing. But most of them are not hugely popular kids. They didn't get
time. Because
at that time.
A lot of them like grow up to be pretty big deals.
Oh yeah, like they're huge in the night. Like going forward, they become like the child actors of the 90s. But to balance that out, the adults in this movie are Robert Duvall playing Pulitzer, and Bill Pullman is this reporter that is like helping the kids like get their stories in their newspaper, and Anne Margaret is this woman that is, you know, huge musical actress from, you know, many decades, and she's running this this theater where the kids hang out and hide from the cops when they need to. And so like they put all of their power and money into these big name actors to come in, and then the movie dies. It does nothing in theaters. It completely bombs, and it ruins live action musicals and live action Disney film for the rest of the 90s. They don't even touch live action until they start doing Disney Channel original movies again. And they don't really do a big promoted musical, I think, until High School Musical.
Which is Kenny Ortega again.
So,
I can't, like, I never knew any of that until you brought it to my attention, and I was just like, wow. Like, I guess it was because of the time, but, like, I remember watching that movie and being like, this was a hit. This had to have been a hit. Like, it's so, like, all the dance numbers are fantastic. Like, the songs are pretty great. the
I mean,
cast is
they're Alan Menken.
outstanding. Yeah, it's
It's
Alan Menken. Like I, like when you said that it basically ruined live action musicals, I was like, that. How can that be true? I was so confused.
I don't know. I don't know because it says then in 2011 they decide to adapt it to Broadway,
Yep.
and it's like the 25th anniversary of the movie and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, like the movie itself had like grown. I think it was one of those things where it's early 90s, so it's not like there was like internet at the time,
Yeah. No.
but I think it had gotten its resurgence. Like a lot of cult films, it had gotten this following as the internet grew, where people were like, hey, you see the movie that almost bankrupted Disney's live action stuff? Hey, you want to see the movie that ruined Disney's thing? Because that's kind of how I came to it.
Yeah.
When the play was being announced, I was in college. I was working for the newspaper at college, so of course,
Nice.
nerds, we were taking this. I was also the paper boy for the college newspaper.
Fantastic.
So the movie's coming out, and my friend Casey turns to me as we're reading this article about this play being produced, and she's like, have you actually seen Newsies? Because it's fantastic. And also, it's like, it almost ruined Disney's like live action everything. And I was like, I have to see this movie then. How do you not see that movie?
Exactly. With that. Oh, man, that's so funny.
And then the play comes out, and it's been a huge freaking hit for the last like 8 years.
Yeah. Which is, I mean,
So,
the fact that it got filmed and like was edited and all of that to be on Netflix, to have like a DVD release of the musical, like that means that you've done something right. That means you've done something incredibly right.
and I mean, I guess like the only thing I can think of is as to why the story didn't work in the 90s and works now is, I mean, it's a unionization and socialism story, first of all,
Yeah.
and we're just at a point now where that's like way more in vogue. Like 1992, 1991, 1992, when the movie's being made, I mean, you're at the end of Bush going into Clinton, and like, I mean, I don't think anybody was talking about unions at the time. I don't know. Maybe my political mind is not knowledgeable enough for that for that history. But like, if it feels like a time where like we're going to do a big story about unions, it's not going to like really sell to anybody. And also, to me, is really funny that like Disney, of all people, who are like own everything in the biggest capitalist country,
Yeah.
and they do this story about child labor and unions and socialism, which is just great.
Yeah. It's like, guys,
but then
you gotta look in the mirror sometimes.
but then the play comes out in 2010, 2011, and Occupy Wall Street just happened.
Yep.
And people are talking about and it's the end of Obama's first term, and so socialism, that word is all of a sudden in vogue. It's to the point where it's even in the play that they've got Pulitzer talking about how Teddy Roosevelt is a socialist.
Yep.
And it seems like a so much more pointed story now than it did then, and maybe that's why all of a sudden it's getting like this bigger resurgence. I don't know. But great dancing, such great dancing.
It's so good. Like, yeah, the dancing is incredible. The musical numbers are spot on, and that's what I remember being mesmerized when I first saw the movie, and even more so after watching the play, which I watched like about 20 minutes ago. No, but it's incredible. Like, it's how. This is crazy.
I'm so sorry, Disney, that we missed this one. That one's on us.
I just it's the play does a lot of weird, like I said, the play does a lot of weird things for me though. Like changing the story and all of that. Like Jack Kelly is an artist.
Yeah, so they do a lot of the story differences between the movies. I think, like I said, I think the play actually, for me, works better, and I think it's a pacing thing. I think the movie, especially like in the second half, starts to drag a little bit for me. That's for me. But a big part of that is that there's 3 riots in the movie.
Yes.
And so like they conflate all that down to one in the play and stuff like that.
Which that was, I think, probably my favorite part of the play, because there's like too much riot. Like there's too much. I don't know, like not going on, but like watching these kids beat up like 3 times as hard to watch. And
Yeah.
watching them beat up on kids is really hard to watch too, because like what the play did right is Jack agreeing with Davy and being like, no, we can't also like beat up on these kids because we're fighting for them. We can't fight them. We have to fight for them and try and convince them any way we can to join us. The people we are fighting are the paper. We need to focus on that. And even like rewatching the movie when they are all, hey, we gotta soak them. Like if anybody doesn't follow us, we soak them, and they're all excited to do that. It's just, oh, this is scary and uncomfortable. But I mean, it's New
It
York
actually like
too. Like that's like that
it is more
time
historically
period
yeah, it is more
feels
historically accurate to the actual strike. Like that was a big thing when the strike
yes,
happened. That it started off really violent, and they had to like get their act together. So like,
yeah.
I get where it's going in the movie. Like they want to do this whole like it's this whole idea that
Well,
the kids are playing at being adults a little bit by doing
yes,
this strike, and so they also have to then realize no, there's actual like ways to do this correctly,
mhm,
um,
yeah,
because
and
they're all doing this in the context of a trolley strike that's going
exactly.
on, and they're watching this trolley strike get super violent. So to them, that's what a strike is.
Yep,
Like they don't
that's all they
realize that
know.
that's like yeah, they don't realize that there's a better way to do things kind
hmm
of thing.
Yeah, and watching Jack in the movie get so excited about watching the violence. I mean, we live in a world where violence, plagues the media and people watch it. It's something to watch and something that you get excited about. But it's different when you're watching kids like almost kill each other
Yeah, and also like the other thing
in
is
a
that he's
Disney
also
movie.
right. I mean, that's the other part of it, and maybe that's probably part of why this didn't work is that this was kind of a too real story for
Yeah,
Disney, as opposed to the fantasy stuff they had been doing. But part of the other thing is that Jack gets excited for the violence because it means he can sell more
exactly.
newspapers the
Yeah,
next day. Like
which
it's not just oh, isn't this exciting? I think that's definitely part of it, but it's also this weird. I mean, there's this weird theme going through the whole movie and the whole play about how like the violent stories and the big stories are the things that sell headlines, which is still
exactly.
true today.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, like yeah, it plagues our media, and it's crazy that it does sell. I mean, it's even in the song. It's like give me a murder or a war, like you know. And then they even have the line, "How about a crooked politician?"
that's not news anymore.
Yeah,
That's not yeah. like
like no, no, we
uh
need violence. We know politicians are crooked, and we can't really do anything about it anymore. So,
yeah.
except go on strike. Uh,
But I want to go back to like you were talking about the differences between Jack in the play versus the movie. And
mm,
yes, he's an artist in the play, and he's the whole cowboy thing is completely taken out. He
yeah,
still wants to go west, but the other thing that's in the play is he keeps saying that his parents are out there and they're going to send for him, which may or may
in
not
the
be
movie,
true.
in the
Right.
movie.
Sorry, in the
Yeah.
movie, yes,
In the
which may
play,
not be true.
he in the play he is very upfront about his past and his life, and
Right.
it like I kind of like that too. I mean, it gives conflict in the movie and it's good. I like it in the movie, but having him be upfront and working with Crutchy to go get towards this um get
This
toward
mythical land of
this
Santa
yes,
Fe where
like
they can go and yeah.
and the fact that he is like he in the movie he's all like I don't have a family. Why do I want a family? I'm just moving away. I don't need anybody. Nobody needs me. Whereas in the play, it's really nice that he is. I mean, he kind of looks out for Crutchy in the movie, but there's a added scene in the play where Crutchy is writing a note to Jack from the refugee. Is that the
Refuge. The
refuge?
refuge,
Thank you.
yes. Which is
Um,
the pretty much the juvie
the
jail,
Derby jail, yeah.
basically.
So he's writing the letter from refuge, and he's like, your friend, no, your best friend, no, your brother." So it's like okay, good. You realize that you do have a family here, and that there are people who rely on you. That's okay. We don't
Right, and
have to worry
he's much
about
more
that anymore. We can have other conflict that is actually like huge.
he's like much more sensitive in the
Yes.
play is
Yeah.
like in a way that he kind of is in the movie, like, but they show that in the movie through the sister that gets completely
Mm,
ripped out of this and replaced with we'll
with the
get to the
reporter.
reporter in a second. But yeah, so Davy's whole background, who comes in, it's him and his brother are selling newspapers because their dad is out of work, um, because he got injured, and so they have dropped out of school to go to work for the family, which they say in the play, but you never see the family in the play.
Mm,
In the movie, they're in like, well, the family's in one scene, the sister's in like two or three scenes, and then just there at the end for stuff. But like,
yeah.
they mostly just serve as a way to be like, oh, we need to show Jack's sensitive side, so stick him with a family and a
Yeah.
girl for a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah.
But in the play, like, he's an artist and he's sensitive, and even they create this whole like romance angle by replacing Bill Pullman's reporter character with this woman who's, I'm assuming, his age. Was another
So
question I had.
that was my question.
But they give them so much more to do. So
Yes.
between that and like fixing like the stuff with Crutchy and all this other stuff, like he becomes a much more
Bigger.
like fulfilled character, it feels like.
Yeah,
Um,
as and it's I when the play started and it started with like a rendition of Santa Fe, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy this
I did the same exact thing.
because why are we starting with Santa Fe? Why are we? What is happening here? But then it does. I mean, Crutchy is one of my favorite characters, and I think Crutchy should be someone's favorite character because he is so good. He's like you just feel for him and you love him, and I just want him to be happy. But having them show their actual relationship and their friendship was incredible to start off with. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So Crutchy's going to be a main player. This is going to be interesting."
Plus, even in the movie, he gets some of the best lines, which
Yes.
is like, "It's this brain I got. It's got a mind of its own."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's just
so good.
and like it's just he's like this little innocent that you just want to root for, who kind of just gets stuck in all of this. He's there, he agrees with them, but he's also like he's the one who calls Mr. Wiesel Mr. Wiesel. Like he's the only one who doesn't call him Weasel. He is very, he's just kind to everybody. Has some slapsticky like remarks towards people, but at the back of it he is still always kind.
And it's
um
always about him. I mean, like, none of his jokes are like tearing anybody down or
yes,
anything
yeah.
like that. Like, all of the other guys, they do the whole like guys ribbing on each other thing. But
Yeah.
even Crutchy, who they are actively making fun of at times, his response is to just go along with making fun of himself. So they're like, what are you gonna do, Crutchy, with your bad leg?" He's like, "Well, I got this awesome personality,
Yeah,
you know."
like that was so good. It's a smile that could spread butter. Like, aw, it's just, and I'm so happy. I was so nervous with all of the Crutchy stuff in the play that they were gonna kill him, and I was like, please don't do that, because that is not what this story needs at
No.
all. And I did like I was like, why are they're putting so much emphasis on Crutchy and Jack's relationship? Please don't kill him.
And I mean, and that's part of, I think, just because they took Davy's family out of it,
Yeah, so they needed
which,
that familial
yeah, which is nice because
connection.
it
Yeah.
also, because like they basically like, as where the movie tries to kind of do this weird balancing. I think it's part of its weird pacing is it's
Mm.
trying to balance Davy and Jack. They swing so much more toward Jack in the play that it actually works, because it works better as just like his story, as opposed to trying to do like two or three different stories at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great. It's that yeah. The similarities and differences make it. Like I said, if they could somehow mesh it together, it'd be great. Can we talk about Catherine? Is that her name?
Yes, we can. Let's talk about
Um,
Catherine and somehow Bill Pullman became a young redheaded woman.
yes. So yeah, I didn't know how I felt about like I like her. I really like her character. I think she's badass. She is cool. She gets a really nice song. It's just it's weird that they still like it's weird that it needed a romance
Yeah,
and
because I
that's
think
where
that,
they put it.
yeah, I mean, yes, because I mean, in the movie, it's Davy's
It's
sister,
Davy's
and
sister.
she's like I said, I feel like the whole kind of pseudo relationship stuff they do with them in the movie doesn't really work because he like shows up for dinner once and then he shows up for milk, I think is what
Yes.
they're drinking on the
Yes.
roof.
Yes.
Um
Milk and
and
eating bread.
yeah. And like that's like
But she goes to the rally with them. Like
she
she's
does like
very
she shows
supportive.
up like yeah like the last like third of that movie
Yeah.
she's around a lot more,
Yep.
but even then like she's there to get grabbed by the Delancey brothers and so she can be saved by Jack, and
Yeah.
she's there to like help with his plans, but like she does very little otherwise
Mm.
aside from just kind of
Mm.
hanging out in that movie. So
And
I
I
did
think.
like
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I did like that, like by conflating her with the reporter and then
Yes.
making that like one more full character. I think
Hmm.
that works.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. And making her like Sarah in the movie is, I mean, she's not. You don't know much about her, and like you said, she doesn't really do anything. It makes me happy that the reporter Catherine is, like I said, she is badass. She takes charge. She doesn't let people, get her down. She doesn't. She does a lot. She is very capable and very independent, and that's cool. It is good that they did that. The romance is still what's weird about it.
yeah, I mean the only thing that's weird about her to me is that they don't do a great job establishing her age, because
Yes,
Jack very clearly in a couple of lines in
is
a couple of the
17.
songs is 17.
Yeah.
So I mean I could see her being like 18 or 19. Like I can see that.
But
I
that's
just
so
think that
young for a reporter in that like I mean maybe it's not.
I mean that's the thing. That's the other problem
Maybe it
is that
goes back into child
there's
labor.
not right, and there's not a lot of like, but even then like at
It's
18
not.
or
Yeah,
19
you're
it's not
not a
child
child
labor
anymore.
anymore. So I mean I don't know what like they since it's relying on the audience to just kind of like go along with it and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, sir, she went to school for this or that for a year and now she's doing this, or didn't even, I mean she's got,
I mean she's
spoiler alert, she's Pulitzer's daughter.
which like
So
what?
which is like so like she probably also didn't have to go to school or anything. She probably was able to walk into any fucking newspaper and
And
be
be
like,
like,
I'm
"Hey,
Pulitzer's daughter, give me a job."
yeah."
So
And people are afraid of him, so I mean that's true. People are afraid of him and they
yeah.
will comply. That was also weird making her his daughter.
Yeah,
Like
that was just like a weird
that's like
extra bit of conflict they had to
yeah,
stick into
that's
the
like
play for some reason.
we need that moment where Bill Pullman is taken off of the story and is now becoming a war correspondent. Like we need that betrayal moment, which like also it doesn't seem that much like betrayal in Bill Pullman. Although I guess Bill Pullman could have been like, no, like I'm done with you, because he does have that line. Okay, never mind. I talked myself out of it.
Right. I
Because he
mean
has
that's just
that line where he's like, I'm a newspaper. I'm a newsman. Like I'm a news reporter. I need a paper to write for. And so you have that betrayal, and the betrayal in the play needs to come from her being his daughter. But
right, where it's just like we needed a reason to take her off of this story, and since they're
exactly.
not going to send a young woman to a war zone
Yeah.
in 1899, they needed something else to take her off. Yeah, yeah, that's I mean that's not perfect,
I mean,
but
it felt as soon as that happened, it felt very Urinetown to me. I don't know if you know
I
Urinetown.
have actually not seen Urinetown.
Okay. Urinetown is fantastic. I love that play. Musical play / musical, whatever. I love that. But in it, the love interest of the main character, who it's kind of New Yorky. It has like this Newsies feel to it, where it's like feels like it's in the 20s and all that. I think it is in the 20s. Basically, people have to pay to go to the bathroom, and they go on strike. And wow, more I talk about it, more comparisons there are to Newsies. Anyways, the love interest is the daughter of like the big um like owner
Big
of
bad
all
guy or
the big
whatever.
bad
Yeah.
guy, yeah. And it's just, oh, okay, so we needed that conflict, so that's why we did that. And I mean, it's viable. It gives it that Romeo and Juliet, you know, romance that a lot of stories go for. So I mean, I get it. I guess that's the best way if they needed to do a conflict and a romance. Why not kill two birds with one stone situation? But still just felt very like that was the biggest part of the play that felt just off.
Right, but and of course, it's one of those things where that's also the scene where he sells out because he
Yes.
doesn't
Yeah.
want to get the other guys in trouble and he wants to get the hell out of New York.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah.
like, they needed him to be like as low as
Yeah.
possible for that to happen.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it combines like 3 or 4 different scenes from the movie into one. Which again, if you're adapting to a stage production, you need to like mash things together. You need to make it tight and get as much out in one scene as you can, because again, you have set movements, um you have actors running around that you need to be able to keep it all pretty centric in a scene and try not to like move around too much.
yeah, and actually, is there anything else you want to say about that before we move on to what I want to? I really want to get into the set design of this fucking
Yeah, no,
play.
that's fine. I
Okay.
the one other thing that I felt weird about King in New York, because I still felt weird about King in New York in the play, is that Jack is not there. And he's just like given up because after seeing everybody get beat down, he was just like, I'm done. Like, this sucks. I don't want to get people hurt. And that racetrack takes over, and then
Oh yeah.
racetrack doesn't sing the racetrack line in
Oh
King of
yeah.
New York.
You're right. You're right. He doesn't.
And I'm like, well, that's weird. Racetrack would want a permanent seat. He wouldn't want new
Uh,
shoes. So that
yeah.
was like another strange bit.
Yes,
But
you're right. I mean, that's the other thing that happened from the movie to the play, is that a lot of the side characters did actually kind of
have meaning.
disappear a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Um,
But a lot of them had way like
and then
bigger
they like moved
roles.
around. Like Specs all of a sudden has he has like bigger roles. The black kid with the
Yep.
glasses is like has a couple of lines and
Yep.
stuff like that. Um,
Yeah. It was interesting. It was
but
interesting. Again, it was interesting how they condensed it all to make it work as a stage play.
yeah,
Which
and speaking of condensing, this is the way
yes.
I'm going to segue into
Okay,
this.
perfect.
I cannot believe for a Disney production how simple
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
stage setting is for this play.
It was
It is
incredible.
just it's these three scaffolding pieces that like when they're next to that are all on wheels so they can kind of go around each other, but when the three columns are next to each other, it's like a big picture like a big Hollywood square
Mm.
tic-tac-toe board style thing
Mhm.
that they can run around on. But then those can also slide back and forth and at angles when they need it to. And then that's it. Everything else is just like tables slid in to change up things a little bit. And
Yeah.
like there's screens in the back where they'll project pictures and stuff on them
That
so they
was
can
the
kind of
coolest
give
part.
you so they can give you this backdrop to things so that they like and it works so elegantly
Mm.
with almost nothing.
Yeah.
I think Disney was not putting a lot of money on this play, I think.
Yeah, no, they were just like, yeah, we'll help it, but we're not gonna give you these lavish sets.
And that
And it was
also
just like, yeah, it was basically all of the projection stuff was incredible. Having like the newspaper articles pop up and having the backdrops, and it was just like it did transform you. It transported you there, and it worked seamlessly.
and it also means that it's a play that lives and dies almost entirely on the actors
Mhm.
and the dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, the dancing. I'm going to keep talking about how awesome it is
No,
because like
it's so good.
I mean, it's good in the movie, but it's so much space that they're working with. You also have a lot of like
Mm.
wide shots of like 20 kids dancing in the street and then people just walking around.
That's
And
like
it's like
that's my favorite part of the movie too, is because
where it's like
there's like that scene where I think they're singing "Seize the Day." I don't remember, and Bill Pullman comes up and he's just like, "Oh, look at these kids
just
singing
sits
and
on a
dancing."
bench,
Like,
just sits on a bench, scrawling away while these kids
What?
dance in the street.
Yeah, they also dance quite a lot in that like Newsies Square area. It's pretty much that's the set piece where they can dance.
Yeah, it's like here's our big open space where we
Yeah.
won't like run into things. So I mean, God, like the things that they do on stage with the newspapers as
Yep.
they're like tap dancing on the newspapers and sliding them around,
Yeah.
and just the giant flourishes as they jump across stage.
Mm. They do
It's
like
so
a
beautiful.
back-breaking move where they jump and like basically touch their hands to their feet like backwards, and it's just like, oh my god, do you know the endurance and the strength you need to have for that is incredible. And that one kid, who like did the spin, the like
Oh,
plie on the
yes.
newspaper. It's just like, jeez, like they're oh my god.
Yeah, and it's like in the uniformity of it
Yes.
is
Yeah.
fantastic because they do this really subtle thing, and I kind of did this in the movie too, but I think it's much more obvious on stage where like in the opening when they're not on strike, basically anytime the Newsies, because even in like there's these like interstitial where they sing the like Newsies theme through
Yeah.
between scene breaks.
Yeah.
And so in the opening and actually at the end when the strike is over, they're still dancing in the like coordinated way, but there's a lot more individual stuff going on. But the through the entire play, when they are on strike and they are a union, they are doing the same perfectly choreographed dances together,
Yep.
and it is fantastic. And oh my God, Christian Bale couldn't pull it off in the movie. It is so. This is why like Jeremy Jordan was so good as
Mm.
Jack Kelly because he brought a passion to that
Yes. Yeah.
character that Christian Bale just did not seem to have, or at least had a different idea of what that character was. Because when you see him dancing with the other Newsies in the movie, he looks like he's like not quite bending over as much as they are, and he's like a little behind on some of the spins, and he just like this like laid back attitude that he brought to it like shows in the dancing too. And I don't know if that's just because Christian Bale's not a great dancer or if he was like doing that on purpose,
I
but
mean,
it was just so strange to like
yeah.
see him stick out like a sore thumb in some of those scenes.
Well, it's also like it's when he's in those uniformity like it's crazy. Yes, you're correct. But then he does Santa Fe, and it's like, where's this been for the
Yeah,
rest of the movie?
yeah, he was
Like
like
you
saving all
just
of his energy
killed,
for
you
this.
just killed that solo. Like when it's just like, dude, come on, what?
Oh, also he manages to find a horse in the middle of New York so he can sing about like so he can wear his
Yep,
cowboy outfit and sing about Santa Fe, which I
yep.
just find hilarious because
It was
he
like
straight up
carnies.
steals a horse for
That's
like
what
a
I said.
street. For a street. He rides it for like a street and then gets off of it again.
And then
So
lets it
God
go.
knows where that horse went. Like,
I said that to Devin, and Devin's like, horses always find their way home. And I'm like, all right, I
pretty
guess.
certain it was a traveling horse.
Yeah,
Home to that horse might not be anywhere in this city.
so funny. Oh man, yeah, no, yeah, the dancing, but even in the play, Jeremy, what is his name?
Jeremy Jordan.
Jeremy Jordan. I knew it was two names. Jeremy Jordan, like, is also not there for a lot of the big like gymnastic numbers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, no, I
And
don't think.
it's
I think most of those like the background Newsies
yes.
dancers were probably ballet
Oh,
dancers. Like
definitely.
almost definitely ballet dancers
Yeah.
and tap dancers. And I think like they gave him yes, he's got a couple of moments where he can come in and do his thing. But I don't know, maybe
But
he's like
still,
very
you're
strong.
right. Like he still has a greater passion there, and oh my god, it's so good. It's so good, and like that's another way to adapt it is and draw out these scenes that like that would have been hold on. Excuse me. That would have been a scene in the movie, and yet they draw it out with these beautiful and lavish like dance numbers, and it works because you're there to see a musical. You're there for fantastic dancers, and just
To
to
the
be
point that
mesmerized.
to the point that there is a 10-minute dance epilogue to the play.
Yep.
The play and the movie are almost the same exact length. One is the movie is 2 hours and is 2 hours and like a minute, at
Yeah.
least on YouTube, and then the stage performance on Netflix is 2 hours and 13 minutes, and I think that extra 10 minutes is literally the end of that.
Yeah.
The end of the play when they just before they even do the cast call like come out and bow thing, they are just for 10 solid minutes of just
Dancing.
dancing.
Like, hey, remember, we can do this.
Yeah,
and
and
we're
like
fantastic at it.
and like the set is pulled back like it is entirely just these guys dancing because there's no props on set. They're not doing anything. They're not. I mean, as great as it was to watch them like throw newspapers around in a coordinated way, which
Yeah.
I cannot believe no one dropped one of
That
them.
right? I was like sitting there. I'm like, this is impressive. How? Like that takes a lot of practice, because they're throwing pretty far distances.
Yeah, they're throwing like up to the second level, and then they're throwing behind them, and then they're throwing up again,
Yeah.
all at the same time.
It's the the synchronization in the play is just it's breathtaking. It really is. Ah, so good. And so I want to talk about the added songs because
Okay.
we've I don't know. I could sit here and just say that the set pieces were beautiful all day long, but the songs that were added were interesting.
They were. I
Um,
like one of them a lot. The other one I could go back and forth with, but one of them I do like a lot.
so basically the added songs, if I'm thinking of this correctly, so it's like you can there's a whole like reprise of Santa Fe that I think you could include because it's not the same Santa Fe song
No, and I
at
think a
all.
lot of that has to do with how they're like changing the way they had
The
to
way they
change the
want it. Yeah.
motivations for Jack and all of that. Yeah.
Yep. So that's a new one, which was interesting, and it works for the story they are telling in the play. It does. I love the movie version, but this one is really good too, in fact that they paid attention and they were like, oh yeah, we still need to make Santa Fe this amazing ballad that will
And
get people to like listen up.
and God, is that a fucking ballad? Oh
Yes.
my
Yeah.
God, he fucking nails
Yes. Yeah.
that.
And like talk about the passion again. Like he is so like the pain that he is singing about is just so like evident in all of his all of his movements, and it's okay, all right, this is another level for Jack Kelly. um, the Santa Fe in the beginning, which I have already talked about, was cool because it brought in Crutchy, and then like I think the three big main ones were Catherine's song when she is singing
At the
at the
typewriter.
typewriter. The meta song was different because it was all about being rich. It wasn't like about
Oh yes,
the
yes,
meta
and actually,
song. Yeah,
it's the
was I wouldn't say wildly different, but it was very different from the
yeah. No, I mean
movie.
it's a completely different song, and also she has a second song that they don't do because they changed up the rally scene because she does a
Yes.
song at the
Yep.
rally as well that she didn't do.
Yep.
But that's Rich. The song that she sings,
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah.
When they put that in there because it's not just it goes along with this other theme that I think is in the movie, but they really hit in the
In the play.
play
Yeah.
again of all of this like the people doing the unloved labor of things, the people who are actually working and all of that. So that's Rich is this whole song about how she runs a burlesque theater, and in the play is a black woman, the actress is a black woman, and that's Rich is basically an entire song about how she's made all of this money off of a bunch of old white dudes that
Yeah.
don't want to be seen with her
Yeah.
for various
crazy.
reasons.
Yeah. And it is perfect. It really is.
Yeah.
Because it sums up the entire theme of the play in that song, and you need that. You need that.
Yeah. And then there's the song that Pulitzer sings,
Yeah.
which
Which
I could.
is
It's back and forth. I mean, I
yeah.
get why they did it. I also get like because in the movie, there's what two or three kind of short scenes with Pulitzer before the end when he finally meets Jack Kelly, and they never see each other until that scene,
Yeah.
which is great. I actually love that in the movie, but for the play because they want to play up the evil
Evilness
mustache
of him.
twirling of
Oh my
Pulitzer.
god.
They give him this song all about the bottom line, and they gave him
It's
all these
just
more extended
despicable.
scenes. Yeah. And I just like it's so like they just turn him into Snidely Whiplash on stage.
Pretty much, yeah. It was interesting. It was interesting to have the villain have a song because a good villain song can make or break your entire story. And I don't know if it was fantastic, but it made you feel gross.
Yeah, and it really is like another thing that really serves. It's more to serve again the reveal of Catherine being his daughter later.
Yes.
Like all of his scenes being extended is so that they can make you hate him more.
Yeah.
Just so that it feels worse when you find out who Catherine is.
Yeah.
Because
I
I like
screamed at the TV.
yeah, because I like in the movie, and also you screamed on text because you texted me at that
I
moment
did.
too.
Yes, I did.
Because I like in the movie, there's this whole, this idea that the companies are faceless and they don't like they never meet their laborers. So like this idea that Pulitzer's in a penthouse right above them this whole time, but never comes out to talk to anybody and never comes out of his office and all of this stuff. And so it really works to only have these short scenes of, well, we're making this decision and I really don't care how it affects these people. I know it's going to affect us this way, so let's just do it. And so then when he has to like face those consequences of Jack and Davy later, it really works. But in the play, yeah, it feels more like we just need you to know to hate this guy. We can't just say his name a bunch of times. You have to really, really dig it in that he's a jerk.
Yeah. And they do it. It happens. I hate him.
Also, did you
I hate
notice
him more than the movie version?
Yeah, the woman that's in his office all the time that's not Catherine. Did you
Yes.
notice that she was one of the nuns from earlier from the opening thing?
So I didn't.
I mean, just as the actress, I think.
She's the one who has like the one line of dialogue that the nuns get, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It
Not
makes
because I don't think they're
sense
the same character. I think it's just that they're just the same actress,
There's
and then
the
you need
same
to fill a
actress,
spot.
which
But
is cool because it's like she's also she's like this support for the Newsies too at some moments. Like all of the people who work for Pulitzer are like, this is wrong, but like, hey, we're making money, but this is still wrong. Like,
oh yeah,
her clapping for Jack as she's leaving the room was nice. Like, yeah, I've been pulling for you, but like I can't do anything. But maybe you could have. Maybe you could have.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
if you
and it's hard to
didn't
say.
Think about the money.
Right, and it's also hard to say that again, like she is another, like the only other prominent female character.
Yes.
We don't even know her name, but
No.
she's the only other female character in this play. So it's almost like everything going on with Catherine kind of informs the fact that while this woman does say things like, I don't think the Newsies are going to be able to handle that, or what happens if this or that, she can't do much more than that in her position.
Yeah.
So
it's cool. It's interesting. That character is definitely interesting because it was also like the tall, like lanky guy. She was kind of like the tall, lanky guy from the movie, like a surrogate for that kind of. The cool thing about, I'm gonna go back to the songs, but the cool thing about all of his worker bees, like in his office, they all like were the people from the movie. Do you know what I mean? So they like all three of them encompassed every other trait from the three guys in the movie.
Yes.
So
yeah, there's like chorus of
been,
people that he has with him.
Yes, it could have been one person that was the person from the movie, but they shared the characteristics between three people so that he would still have three characters. Because the Sean Astin, is that his name? Rudy? Yep. Sean Astin?
Yes.
Yeah. The Sean Astin looking guy who had the glasses. I thought it was Sean Astin because it kind of looked like him, but like he kind of encompassed the guy who was like, this is going to be hard on those boys, but she got to deliver that line. But you know, and he also is the same person in the movie who says these kids put out a hell of a paper.
Yes.
But like it's cool that those two characters in the play were playing one person from the movie to spread out the characteristics.
Yeah, aside from just having like a couple of yes men and then one person dissenting and all of that.
Yeah, it's cool that there were two people who were kind of like pushing back on it. That was really interesting. But go back to the songs that were added, and then they have the love ballad. So there are like 5-ish new songs, because Catherine and Jack sing a love ballad together.
Of course they do, because of course they do, because they added to. You're right, but what I like about that song is that again, like playing up this idea that Jack Kelly is more sensitive. So like this idea that and this happened, I think, way more in theater before like the 80s and action movies and big, masculine dudes became like the thing. But just the idea that like this is an entire song about how he is terrified that she's going to like turn her back on him, like is fantastic, I think. Yeah. I mean, song's fine, but I think the intent of the song
is better than the song.
Yes.
In my opinion. And like I think her typewriting song is way better.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
That was so good.
and it's like the perfect like she pulls off the like fast talking,
Yes.
early 20th century newswoman so
Mhm.
well
Mhm.
in that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And you get way more in her head than you do Bill Pullman, whose name is Denton in the
Our man Denton,
our man
yes.
Denton. Like I like that you get in her head more than you do for him, which again you have to because she is a much bigger character in the play than Bill Pullman
Than
in the
even
movie.
Denton is in
Yeah,
yeah, because he
yeah,
doesn't show up for 40 minutes. I
yeah.
timed it the second time I watched the movie.
Nice.
He doesn't show up for 40 minutes of that
Yeah,
movie.
the fact like there's so much emphasis on her and it makes sense. There has to be emphasis on the news reporter who is helping these newsies get their story out. Because without her, no one would know that the strike was happening. Like so it's weird that Denton doesn't have a bigger like
He's like much more
in-depth.
background. Like
Yes, yeah, it's weird
he's
that
doing the
he's like
whole
a
I'm a
sub
journalist. I
character.
can't get super involved, but
Yeah.
I will feed 20 kids on a
Yeah.
regular basis through this movie.
that
I
was
love that too.
that
That
was
like
interesting.
all of a sudden he's just feeding these kids regularly and
Yeah.
there's no conversation about the fact that that's going to be costing him a fucking fortune.
Yep. Yeah. Who like and to comment on like you guys are working with a rich dude here cuz he can pay for all of you.
Yeah.
So that's weird. But
I
you
did
know
like
what's
I did like in the play with their the restaurant, the guys passing out the water because I also like that shows that there are other people that also like other working class people that also care about the Newsies.
yes. Yeah.
So like the guy running the restaurant is giving them all water and like giving them a place to hang out for a little bit before he opens. It's like who's the fancy guy who got the seltzer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
over here,
That
two
was good.
cents. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. That was interesting that I mean, it's a play. You're not going to have food in it, but there was like no food emphasis in the play, which food is a pretty huge emphasis in the movie.
Right, like who can and
Like,
can't eat, and
yeah.
even like Davy's family, who are supposed like Jack looks up to these people, or is so jealous of Davy that he's got a family to go home to, and even when he goes over for dinner, his dad, Davy's dad, is like, "Oh, we could probably put a little bit more water in the soup so that we could
Yeah.
have an extra bowl of soup for someone." So
Yeah.
like it's like this huge moment just there to be like, "Oh, they are also
Yes.
struggling."
Yeah. It was cool. It was interesting. Um, there was another thing I was gonna say and bring up. Oh, the fact that Davy's father in the movie doesn't get upset is nice. The fact that he is like very proud of them.
Oh
He's
yeah, you
proud
noticed
of
that too.
Jack and he's proud of Davy and it's just like that's cool. That's nice cuz we don't need that conflict too.
Yeah,
Like cuz
like,
that would be way too heavy-handed.
yeah, and I think
Like
that's also why it was so easy to write them out of the
yes,
play, is
yes.
because it's so weird to me that there is not a they have very clearly established that these two boys are the only ones making money for their family right
Yeah.
now. And they're like 2 days in, they go on strike and stop making money.
Yep. Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
and there's not like any sort of conflict with the family that, hey, you're supposed to be making us money right now.
Yeah.
Like it just never comes up. It just never comes up because that scene with the family, like the whole family, is before the strike happens, which and so that and you don't see them again after the strike starts.
Yeah.
You see his sister, but you never see the parents again after that scene, and so like you never get this implication that like there's any sort of stress with them about this.
Which is crazy. But it
Uh,
works. It works somehow. It does work.
yeah.
um oh man. Yeah. I still I love Newsies so much. Do you know what was weird though that I realized?
What?
Like at the end of the movie I'm sitting there and I'm like, but now everything just goes back to normal. Like
So
you all
yeah.
are
So
still not going to make that much money. Like
yeah.
they
So there.
explain that really really well in the play cuz
Yes.
it feels gross that they're just like gung ho to go back to work after all of the shit that happens in the movie. Like in the play they do that the whole Jack's like betrayal, quote unquote betrayal to the Newsies is, guys, what are we gonna do? Like we win this, and then 2 weeks later, Pulitzer's gonna bring up those prices again, and then where are we gonna be? Like we're never gonna win, and all of that, which was sad to watch, but that is what I thought at the end of the movie, and then at the end of the play. you have that moment. You get to see the resolution between Pulitzer and Jack where they both make compromises. So now anytime a newsie doesn't sell a paper, they will get bought back.
Which
They will
is
get
like
more money.
literally, which is historically exactly what they got out of that strike.
Yes.
That's what blows my mind is
Which
like
is-
how like for a movie that it's Disney, so they Disneyfied a lot of this, and so many of the characters are combinations of other historical characters and all that. But the actual resolution in the play is exactly what they got
happens.
out of Pulitzer, and that's in that strike is
And
all they because it's all they want, and it's like this beautiful there is a beautiful angle to that where there's the demonizing of like unionization and workers and socialism and all that, where it's like people just want to be lazy and have stuff handed to them. It's like, no, they still want to work.
yeah.
These guys like doing this
Yeah.
work. They just want to be compensated for it.
Yeah, they just
And
want to
even
get
Jack
more
is like,
money.
because even like in that final argument, Pulitzer's like, what's to say they take 100 papers and then just sell them back? It's like, who's going to do that?
Yeah.
We still have to carry the freaking
Exactly.
things.
None of us are going to do that because now we can take a couple extra with no risk. Before, we were nervous to take a couple extra because we lost our money. So, we're not really going to screw you out.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen. As long as you don't screw us.
Yeah.
And it
That's
also,
all it is. It's
they
just like this
also-
idea that like we're all theoretically all in this business together.
Yeah.
Like,
We just need to work together. That was a beautiful scene too, where Davy and Pulitzer are talking, and Davy was just like, "We all work for the same thing. Why didn't you just come talk to us? Like, you just said this speech about what a man is and what courage is, and it's like looking out for yourself. You're losing money right now. Just talk to us, and we can come to an agreement." And like that was a great scene in the play. That never happens in the movie. And it's like, yeah, okay.
no,
that's
instead
needed.
in the movie they scare Pulitzer with sound because they just kick him out on
scare
the
him with
balcony.
sound.
They kick him out on the balcony, and the balcony is all these kids
Yeah.
it's like shouting up at him, and he's like, "Oh, the light.
Yeah.
Out of my way."
And then it's like, as soon as they say that they use his printing press, he's just like, well, I gotta give them what they want. Like, it's nice that you get to see the discussion in the play.
Yeah.
And it's like they realized, yeah, we need to show people this because it kind of feels dirty still in the movie. Like, we just won. Okay, we'll go back to
Yeah.
work now. Like, yeah, we get the refuge disband. We get Snyder away because he's, like, hurting kids. We get some new rules for child labor. But, yeah, it's...
Yeah, God, how much money do you think Disney spent getting a bunch of kids on that set for that one scene at the end of the movie,
I don't
too?
know. Yeah,
Where it's
it's
like-
like disgusting to think about. Like,
Yeah. By the way, here's this whole thing. We're gonna film this fake protest against child labor by hiring all of these children to cram on a set.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
Gosh.
I do wish the play had more Brooklyn. Spot Conlon
Yes,
really.
Spot Conlon.
That's the
So-
that's the
oh!
biggest travesty of the
Yes,
play is
yes.
that they almost entirely write out Spot Conlon because
Yeah.
the Brooklyn stuff has to kind of get rearranged. But
Which is like, I was waiting. I'm like, where's Brooklyn showing up? Because they're the best part. Like, when they show up in the movie, it like changes that movie. And I thought, so you know the kid in the beginning who has the slingshot
yes,
with the Newsies? I thought that was Spacalin. And is that his name?
Spot Conlon.
Spot Conlon?
Yeah.
Colin? Is it one word or is that like his
It's-
name?
Spot is his first name, and then,
And then
Conlon
Conlon?
is his last name.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, I thought that dude with the slingshot was Spot because in the movie, his like trademark is his cane that he hits people with and his slingshot.
Which he is bribed with when they show
Yes.
up, which I love. It's
Hey,
that,
we
like,
got some
their-
marbles for you.
Their payment into Brooklyn without getting their asses kicked is to give Spot Conlon shit to shoot with.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like, and Spot he's such a good character, and I saw the kid with the slingshot, and I was like, so Spot doesn't exist in the play? What? That's another reason why I'm like, I'm not gonna like this because where's Spot? Yeah, but yeah, and then Brooklyn. I just love when Brooklyn shows up going, Brooklyn! Oh, man, that was a cool part, too, where, like, talk about how to condense a stage play, like a stage production into what you needed to, and that all of the like all of the Manhattan Newsies became the other Newsies of the
Oh
world,
yeah.
and
Oh
then
yeah.
there was just Brooklyn, and it's like,
He's
oh,
like, here's
okay, I
five
need to
guys in
suspend
red.
I need to do some imagining. Okay, all right, well, cool.
Oh man.
That was funny. But yeah, no, I think it's good. I liked it. I still like the movie, but there's definitely stuff that the movie does right that the play doesn't, and that what the play does right that the movie doesn't, which I think is what you can ask out of.
Right, and I think for me, like I said, I like the stage production a little more, only because I think I could sit like I love the movie,
Yes.
and I will. I'm
Yeah.
not never going to watch it again, but I think it would. I think it's a better paced story in the play that it like holds my attention a little bit
Yeah.
easier for that 2 hours
Yeah.
that the movie doesn't quite do.
Yep. Yeah. I talking about the play made me realize how good the play actually was. So that's good. Oh man, but I got nothing else.
No, I mean,
I think we
find
hit
Newsies
everything.
in any capacity. If you
Yes.
have Netflix, you already have one Newsies.
Yes.
Like I said, on YouTube, it's like $3 to rent and like 15 to buy or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that is worth going back and looking at, especially if you only know Newsies as that movie that bombed in the 90s.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
definitely worth a watch if you're a fan of Newsies.
the accents aren't better in one or the other.
No.
So
they're pretty crap. Pretty consistently crap throughout.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're so bad. They're so bad. Oh,
But
God.
and Davy's little brother Les is great in both.
Oh my
But
God, he is like
that's what we didn't talk
We
about.
didn't talk about Les.
In the play, he's so fucking good because they give him so like a couple more slapsticky things to do.
And they
Like when they're thrown out of the office and he's just screaming at the door.
Well, it's cool that they give him some of the Jack lines. Like, at that moment, Jack is the one yelling at the door in the movie, and it's cool that they gave this little kid that moment to shine.
Yeah.
And, like, he really is, like, he's kind of like the Jack Kelly in the movie, but a kid version.
Oh, my favorite is when they show up at Meta Larkin's.
He's like, I got a date. What?
Oh, that too. That is also very good. But I mean, when they first show up, stepped on my headphones. When they first show up at Meta's, and he's just like gawking at the women.
Yeah.
He's like, Les, what's wrong with you? Are you kidding me? They ain't got no clothes on.
I can see her legs.
And the girls just turn around and wave.
Yeah. And Meta's like, let him look. And it's like, oh, okay.
Oh man, yeah. So it is definitely something worth watching in any form. And that's gonna be it for our second hot topic.
Good for us.
Which just came out of I came out of freaking nowhere, but we were both like, we need to watch these now. Oh man.
Yeah, definitely go check out Newsies in, like we said, in any fashion. But that's gonna be it. This has been Say Report Jr. Hot topic number 2. Whoop whoop. You can. That should just be the sound.
That should be the end right there.
Right there. No, you can find Say Report Jr. on YouTube. You can by searching for Say Report Jr. You can also find us on Twitter at Say Report Jr. And you can find each of us individually on Say Report on Twitter. I am at Dale's Brain.
And I am at Zerwisky.
And we didn't say that it's a podcast you should be listening to, subscribe to, and downloading every week.
I don't know what we're supposed to bring from like the regular episodes to this and all that, but you know.
It worked. I think we did it. I think everyone just needs to go get ice cream.
Cool. Let's send it off to Liz.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Serowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report. And you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.